just when you thought it was safe to put on your headphones? You entered the darkest, wildest, sexiest depths of technology. And here to keep you on the bleeding edge of science, tech, and ethics is the Rated R radio star, the man of tomorrow, the golden stallion of the tech world, Brian Sovryn. He has a huge brain. And now, here's Brian.
Woo! Baby! From days of long ago, from uncharted reaches of the universe, comes a legend. The legend of the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Sabzu, the Rated R radio star, the man that some call the most interesting anarchist in the world today. And I am here, and good Dr. Brian Sovryn, ready to get into some Sovryn tech. And I hope you like that new little intro. That is the new official Sovryn tech intro, just airing it right now in episode 210. I cannot believe that, episode 210 of Sovryn tech. We've been rocking 5 years, baby. Woo! Now, I'm not going to be releasing actually the new intros in this episode. That'll be the next episode. But there you go. There's the new music, the whole thing, even though you might have heard that music before. I'm not going to tell you where it comes from either. But let's just say it's something that's been long unreleased. Oh, I love it. So this episode is going to be, it's still going to have the segments and everything, but it's going to kind of be a unique episode because I am going to, we're going to get into some, we're going to get into some foreplay. We're going to get into some tech, little tech news stories of the week, because there's certainly plenty of those. But after that, I'm going to get into, in the first segment of the show, I am going to get into a very heavy topic conversation about anarchism in general. Okay. And normally, anarchism colors this show. It's the only anarchist tech show actually, I think maybe in the world. I don't know that there's any others. If there are, well, okay. So I know there's the Windows Central podcast, and Daniel Rubino, who's the head of Windows Central, arguably the most popular Windows website, or should I say Microsoft website, on the planet. He is an anarchist. He is a left libertarian. But he doesn't have it color his show at all, like he does the Windows Central podcast, which I listen to. He's a great guy. But so, I'm kind of the only one that really lets the anarchism seep in. But normally I don't, I don't make it like a central focus of the main segment of the show. Not exactly anyway. So I just want you to know that if you come here regularly, I have lots of new listeners, lots of people that, I know do not come from an anarchist persuasion that listen to the show. Lots of people that come from all different types of anarchist persuasions as well, that listen to the show. And so in the show notes, okay, will be a timestamp. After I'm done recording, I'm going to put in two timestamps. One is when I start talking about this heavy duty anarchism subject, philosophical subject. And then underneath, and then the next one will be when it ends. So when it starts, when it ends. If you want to skip that entire segment, go ahead and skip it. That way, all you get is the tech news this week, baby. Okay. Cause I know you love it, and that's what you'll get. But for everybody else, and I had requests from a very gracious listener, one in particular, and then other people saying, whoa, come on, talk about this, after that. And so I'm going to get into it. Okay. But we're going to get into some foreplay first. Boy, I'll tell you though, I got to let you know about this. I got to look at a preview copy of one of my favorite periodicals, I guess you could say. And that is Obsolete magazine. Obsolete magazine is so cool. I've been reading it. Now, they're only like 9-10 issues in, and I got a preview look at issue 10. And it's phenomenal. It's so good. So I want you, this is, talking about how Sovryn tech combines anarchism and technology and science, and all that. Obsolete Press does this really good job of just being really kind of rebellious and rabble-rousing and mixing it in with a lot of science fiction, a lot of punk, just this really rebellious attitude, even the fact that it's still like in the zine scene. I love it. So if you want to check it out, obsolete-press.com, obsolete-press.com. Always, I get excited anytime something comes out from that. So do keep your eye out for number 10 there, and just great stuff. And I mean, pick up the back issues. They're all gold. I mean, they're loaded with stuff from Asimov, and I mean, really like the more insightful stuff. And and you could spell that any way you want, INCITE or INSIGHT. Okay, because either way it flows. Woo. So anyway, oh boy, it is early in the morning. Pardon me while I have a little sip of a fine drink here. I know you come to podcasts to hear people drink. Not alcohol, folks. Relax. I'm a teetotaler. But anyway, even though there seems to be a lot of cocktails going around these days, you know what I mean? Ooh, boy. All right. So why don't we open this up and with something really that I think is actually ridiculously exciting, and I recommend everybody get on board with, right now. Don't wait, even though it hasn't officially come out. And that is LeVar Levinson is back. Woo! The beast is back, baby. This is, of course, LeVar Levinson was the creator and operator of Lavabit. Lavabit was the email service that is now infamous and notorious, and I mean those words with absolute reverence and respect, that Edward Snowden was using, and that he was, able to get in touch with, whoever he needed to get in touch with, Greenwald and all those cats, to release whatever documents, at least set up the meeting and everything to be able to release a lot of documents and all this. And it is the one that the U.S. government went after. And when they went after LeVar Levinson and Lavabit, LeVar Levinson said, "I'll shut down Lavabit before I hand you a goddamn thing." And that's the right way to do business in this world today, is that when the government comes knocking on the door and there is, that much on the line with your consumers, you tell them, "No, I'll shut down. I'm not giving you anything. See you later. I'll close up shop. That's fine." Kudos. I mean, it's one of the greatest. I mean, LeVar Levinson is as much a hero as any whistleblower, in my opinion. Like, really, that is a heroic act what he did, because who knows how many whistleblowers, who knows how many activists, who knows how many people, that he saved their lives by doing what he did. So he just this past week, or let's see, January 20th, I think, was the official announcement that, yeah, we're bringing Lavabit back, and, fucking kudos. In fact, I'm going to read a little bit here, and then I'll talk a little bit about the service. January 20th, 2017, and this is right when you go to lavabit.com. This is the first thing that shows up, and of course, link in the show notes for episode 210. Fellow citizens and Lavabit users, today is Inauguration Day in the United States. Woo, boy, we got President Trump in office. Trump. In the United States, the day we enact one of our most sacred democratic traditions. Well, LeVar, we got to talk about this sometime, but whatever. The peaceful transition of power. Power in itself is not inherently peaceful, so you can't really peacefully transition it, regardless of one's, or at least political power anyway. Regardless of one's political disposition, today we acknowledge our shared values of freedom, justice, and liberty as secured by our Constitution. Oh, fuck. This is the reason why I've chosen today to relaunch Lavabit. Yay! Which I would argue does more for human liberties than the Constitution could ever dream of doing. But that's just the Golden Stallion talking. In August 2013, I was forced to make a difficult decision, to violate the rights of the American people and my global customers, or shut down. I chose freedom. Woo! Good on you. Yes, you did, sir. Much has changed since my decision, but unfortunately, much has not in our post-Snowden world. Email continues to be the heart of our cyber identities, but as evidenced by recent jaw-dropping headlines, it remains insecure, unreliable, and easily readable by an attacker. Today, we start a new freedom journey and inaugurate the next generation of email privacy and security. In 2014, with Kickstarter funding, I started the development of the Dark Internet Mail Environment, DIME, a revolutionary end-to-end encrypted global standard, and Magma, its DIME-capable and free and open source mail server. Now, let me break that up a little bit here. So we talked about DIME before, that this was something being developed. I was concerned. I was like, hopefully they ever release this. And there's kind of a grander message in a lot of this, is that we're finally seeing, after something I predicted, and I'm not the only one. I'm not certainly not special in this. Something I predicted after what happened with Edward Snowden, regardless of the reality around Edward Snowden, whatever you may think of that. I said, look, there's going to be a crypto economy that's going to come out somehow. I mean, even if, 90% of the world, just falls into apathy after finding out what the U.S. government, after officially finding out, instead of just, a lot of people kind of already knew, but instead of, after officially finding out what the U.S. government, the egregious acts that they have been doing against people's digital lives and thus their physical lives, really, that there would still be, it'd be profitable to work within that 10% of people to create services that, help out and appease the needs of that, 10% of people. And that would be the crypto economy. And now I think what we're seeing in 2017, and this is a hopeful message. In 2017, we are seeing, and we're going to be covering this a lot because there's other stories that have come out as well, just in the past couple weeks. But, we can't get to all of them in one show. But in 2017, I think we are finally seeing a lot of these technologies that were influenced by the Snowden revelations, by the start of the crypto economy, and they're finally coming into reality. And this is one of the, shall we say, first shots across the bow, of that happening. And that is fucking exciting. Okay, now Dime, like I said, we talked about it. It's getting, looked over and everything. I mean, this is pretty legit. It's been being worked on for quite some time. Here's the beauty of Dime. Okay, again, it is totally open source. Now he mentions Magma. Okay, LeVar mentions Magma. Magma, you can download this right now. This is incredible, and it is software for your own personal mail server. If you have a mail server, you can download Magma and you can create an entire Dime client on your mail server. So you can use this technology completely on your own. You don't have to use Lavabit. It can be done by anybody, anywhere, anytime. That's huge. Bravo. Who cares if LeVar, the point being is that if Lavabit fails, the technology of Dime, of dark internet mail environment, I like that name too. It's already out there. It's unleashed. It's out. You can't stop it, and people are going to keep developing it. I mean, you think people aren't going crazy about this? I mean, of course they are. This is exciting. So Magma is really cool. I mean, that's almost bigger news than Lavabit coming back. But let's read on a little bit more here. I am proud to announce that we are releasing Dime and Magma to the world. Dime provides multiple modes of security, trustful, cautious, and paranoid, and is radically different from any other encrypted platform, solving security problems others neglect. Dime is the only automated, federated encryption standard designed to work with different services providers while minimizing the leakage of metadata, good right on, without a centralized authority. Dime is end-to-end secure, yet flexible enough to allow users to continue using email without a PhD in cryptology. Former Lavabit users will be able to access their accounts in trustful mode and update their credentials to the new Dime standard. Anyone who wants a future Lavabit account can pre-register for our next release, available in all security modes. Anyone can access our free open source library and associated command line tools capable of creating and handling their new Dime standard. Anyone with a domain can deploy Magma or implement their own encrypted Dime compatible server. Those are just a few of the steps of many, as our implicit goals are to build the graphical clients for Windows, Mac OS, Mac OS, iOS, and Linux and Android, and help others implement this new technology. Today, the democratic power we transfer to keep identities safe is our own. With our continued patronage, with your continued patronage, we will restore privacy and make end-to-end encryption an automatic, ubiquitous, and open source reality. In freedom, liberty, and justice, Ladar Levinson. So I thought that was really, just a important thing to read. And kudos to Ladar Levinson. I mean, this is phenomenal. This getting released. Now, you can sign, if you didn't already have a Lavabit account, okay, You can pre-register. You can't get access to it right now. And right now what they're doing is there's like a couple buttons on the site. Again, lavabit.com. You can click on those. Eventually you'll get to a point on the site where it says, okay, if you'd like to pre-register, it's going to cost. This is going to be a yearly subscription that you pay for Lavabit to work. All right. But do we want to fund Ladar Levinson's, what he's doing with Dime? Fuck yeah. So you can get, I think it's 6 months, or maybe it's a year. I think it's, or no, right. It's not the time frame. It's the amount of storage. So you can get 5 gigs for a year right now for $15. You can do it with card, or you can get it with Bitcoin. Woo! You can get it with Bitcoin, so then you don't have to give away any information whatsoever. And if you want 20 gig a year, I think it's double that. It's like $30. But eventually, it's going to become, if you don't get in early, I mean, this is early bird special, right? If you don't get in early, you end up paying double. Like, it's $30 for the 5 gig a year, and then $60 for the 20 gig a year. So I mean, I already put it down. I'm like, yeah, I'm on board with this. Let's do this, and I certainly recommend everybody else do it. I mean, to some degree, even if it somehow fell through, which I really cannot imagine. We are talking about, how much fucking integrity do you have to have? To say to the U.S. government, no, fuck you, I'm shutting down. See you later. Phenomenal. So I'm excited about this. This is some of the best news you could ever possibly get. This is email being done right. This is incredibly exciting. There's other great options out there too. But I've always said, I've been saying for some time, and I get some flack for this, and I get it. Okay, Signal, like using the app Signal. Okay, the Signal protocol, phenomenal cryptography. Perhaps the bbest in the world. Is it better than PGP? Yep, in a million fucking ways. There are so many things that get done through that where it is really the rock solid stuff. Okay. However, Signal has a couple. It doesn't have any security exploits. It just has a couple of practicality problems. One of them is that you have to have a phone number. Okay, right? And you have to have a phone. Now, some people don't want either, so they're not going to use Signal. And it's not like you can just, as far as I know anyway, unless somebody's done something magical, but I don't see how this is possible, unless you have a landline or something. Like, there's just, you can't really use it without buying into, kind of the effectively, depending on how paranoid you want to get, right? You can't get into it without buying into the spy network that is mobile phones. That's for some, that's a huge issue. So PGP and email, which also you don't need any, you don't need any kind of centralized authority or anything. And I get it. I know. Please, I'm the golden stallion, goddammit. Okay, I understand that. Well, how do you know that person's who they say they are with PGP? How do you know you're not getting man in the middle and all this stuff? Well, first off, you have key parties. Okay, but second off, there's a lot more than just using PGP. There's different levels of usage of PGP for some people. Okay, the rabbit hole goes deep. So, but to not have to, be a part of a centralized authority and to have such solid encryption, email is still a big deal. Ladar's right. When Ladar says that, look, email is still like the center of our digital lives, it's true. So secure the fuck out of this shit. And and this is step 1 in doing that. So this is like step 5 that we finally got to. And I think it's phenomenal. So I recommend to anybody, they're not a sponsor of Sovryn Tech. I would get no money off of it. The link in the show notes is literally just lavabit.com. I am not trying to make anything off of you. I'm saying I would recommend getting on board with this. There we have it. So why don't we move on to a little other news. Oh boy. So this is something else. Here's something in the show notes that I want you to check out. This could almost have been HackSec, but it's such a simple thing. It doesn't need to be a whole segment. And that is, this has been going on forever. Okay. This is not anything new. Because, and it's so simple. It's so clever. It's not really an exploit, but this is something you're going to want to take action on right now. Now, this, as far as I know, what I'm about to describe only affects Well, yeah, I think it only affects Chrome, maybe Safari and Opera. Okay, so pretty much every web browser except for Firefox. If you're a Firefox user, you're safe from this. Okay, and I mentioned this on social media earlier in the week. So if you're not following me on Twitter or wherever, you might want to start to, because when something really serious like this comes out, I mention it immediately. I don't wait for you to find out on Saturday. Sometimes I mention it on a Patreon episode, like on the Q&As or something like that, which if you're not a Sovryn Tech patron yet, just go to sovryntech.com and you can become a Sovryn Tech patron, and you get all kinds of little perks for that. So, including we have our first hangout, live hangout, where I'll be fielding questions. And that's going to be a good time. So if you want to be a part of that, that's happening in the next couple, or really the next week or so, I guess. So anyway, this is pretty much every web browser except for Firefox. And what this is that web browsers have had for some time, even back, going back to like Internet Explorer 7, I think. I remember was the first time I saw this. In fact, it might even have been IE6. Where you have autofill, an autofill option, where when a website comes up and it has, not your passwords, not like that, not like storing passwords, but it'll come up with like information like, do you want to autofill your address? Do you want to autofill your credit card information? What do you want to autofill within these text fields? And, it's all for a degree of convenience and whatever. Now, myself, I never used the autofill feature, not because I thought it was a security risk necessarily, even though I certainly thought about that, because a lot of browsers store things in plain text. In fact, I might get into a little bit more of that here in a second. Okay. But I didn't do it because it always seemed clunky. Like it never really filled out everything properly. Maybe it's because I've just lived in odd parts of the planet. I don't know, or I've been in odd parts of the planet, but yeah, it just never seemed to work right. So I never messed with it. But now what we're finding out, or now what we found out, is that websites can actually, webmasters, I guess, of websites can actually create text fields that you don't even see. They're like off to the right on the web page. Okay, you don't see them at all. They're completely hidden. And all they have to do is put a couple of text fields in the visible area, okay, of the website. And, you just like maybe asking for your name and email address. You start typing that in, and then the website can collect all of your autofill information. All right. That means potentially credit card numbers, because it's whatever the text fields call for that's going to respond to the autofill. So people, without you knowing whatsoever, you thought you were just typing in your name or your email address, and suddenly you just gave a website, pretty much potentially all of the data in your autofill. I mean, it's so simple. And this has obviously been going on forever, probably since the beginning of Chrome, because I think that autofill feature has been there for a long time. Like I said, I remember it being all the way back into like at least IE7. So I put a link in the show notes. It's in the appendix of the show notes that tells you, it doesn't tell you more about the problem because there is no write-up about this. This is kind of a unique find, not on my part, but it's true. I mean, and nobody's really, for whatever reason, nobody's talking about it. But the link in the show notes tells you, at least in Chrome, how to delete all of your autofill information. Okay, and get rid of it, and just don't have it. Don't just get rid of it. Don't have it be in there, and just fucking take the time. I mean, this is the thing, right? Is that with privacy and security, okay, and anonymity and all this, there's the trade-off with convenience that will always be. Things are getting better, certainly, but in many ways, there's always there sort of always has to be that trade-off in one form or fashion. And this is where that trade-off is that, look, if you store all this stuff in your browser, someone's going to be able to yank it. And that's exactly what's happening here. And you don't even know. You can't know because it won't even show up. I mean, unless you like check the code of every website. But look, if you're going to check the code of every fucking website, then, in the amount of time that takes, why the fuck can't you just type out your shit, instead of using autofill? I mean, if you're willing to take the time there, I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Okay. So you got to understand. Okay. So I get a lot of mail, mostly positive, but I get some emails at times that are just whatever. Okay. And I don't even know. I mean, some of these people keep emailing me and it's like, really, why are you listening to the show? You hate it so much, or it sounds like it anyway. But like, I get emails where people say like just the most pedantic, like, well, what if I do this? And it's always like so simple. It's like, wow, you're going to such an extreme that if you're willing to go to those, if you're going to say that extreme is a problem, then just do what I recommended in the first place because it takes less time. Mind-boggling to me. So, but anyway, there you go. Yeah. And okay. So the other point I was going to mention, and we've talked about this before on Sovryn Tech. Some people might not know this, is that now I've talked many times about password managers and password security and all this, and I'm not going to get into a huge, subject on that, but I just want to say that while you're getting rid of the autofill information, I want you to understand something about Chrome in particular. Okay. And that is that Chrome stores all of your passwords, all of your login information. When you tell it to autosave login information, when you tell it to save it, if you're not telling it to save it, it doesn't store it. Okay, at least not in this way. But when you're using Chrome, and if you have it set to autosave passwords and all that, it stores all that in plain text on your computer. All your passwords are completely in plain text. They are not encrypted. So while you're doing that, maybe while you're cleaning up your browser, take the time, either set up LastPass or 1Password or, do the little black book, which is what I recommend. Little black book is literally having a little black book with all your passwords in it. Okay. That you can light on fire as needed. Get a password, or, NPass. There's a bunch of different ones. Get a password manager. Okay, and get that set up. Encrypt the shit out of your passwords while you're at it, because those things being in plain text should be such a security no-no. It's amazing more people don't clamor about this. Okay, go nuts about it. So while you're cleaning things up, do that too for me. Okay, but definitely stop using that autofill feature. Even if you're on Firefox, don't use it. Take the fucking time. Security takes a little bit of work on your part. All right, I'm not insulting you. I'm just saying it takes a little bit of work. Accept it. Do it. All right. Because the more secure you are, the more secure everybody is. Okay. Like if nobody was using this ability, then websites wouldn't even be trying to exploit it. Right. So anyway, let's move on to another one. Yeah. Link is in the show notes for how to delete all that. There really isn't a story, there's not a link to read about it, how to, what exactly it's going to do. I mean, I know what happens, it goes to a pastebin. I mean, anyway, let's move on to another one. This is interesting. Couple little tidbits here. Sponsored ads are now going to be appearing in Facebook Messenger. Now understand what this exactly means. And that is that Facebook Messenger, they're going to appear not in a message, as I understand it, but I mean, it's only a matter of time before this kind of shit changes anyway. How this will appear is on the app. And this is mainly where it will appear. I mean, again, I wouldn't be shocked if in the future they start appearing right in the middle of a chat message that you're having, but it will appear when your main app, okay, on iOS, Android, whatever, that main screen where it shows like all of your messages, in between all that, where like there's active now, favorites, and more conversations and everything, in between that, there will now suddenly be these gigantic ads. Now they're only testing it out in a couple countries. I think they want to see how people react to it, which by the way, that's behavioral experimentation. But something people used to have an issue with, but, anyway, they're putting that there, and that's going to become a thing. Will they become more intrusive in the future? I certainly think so, because there's always a little bit of wiggle room in Facebook's terms of service that always seems to be there. Will it be something that eventually they'll start, schlepping vote for Zuckerberg in the future? Yup, I guarantee it. Well, okay, I don't guarantee it, but you know what I mean. So that's a thing. Now, interestingly, this past week, I noticed, now I'm a tech journalist, so I test out apps all the time, apps that, in my perfect world, and, if I wasn't worried about anything, that I'd never use in my life. Like, I mean, that I wouldn't even, give them the time of day. And so the Facebook app this week, I noticed, and in fact, everybody seemed to notice this. It was, I think, Thursday night. Okay, so we're recording this on Saturday. It's January 28th, 2017. And HE, by the way, the human era. Look into the Holocene calendar if you've never heard of it. So on Thursday night, In fact, I saw a ton of people saying, whoa, what's going on with the Facebook app? It's just constantly crashing. And in fact, I think it was Wired did a post about it, or maybe it was VentureBeat, whoever, but they all said, oh yeah, this is an actual problem. Like everybody's seeing this big crash. Now the claim was that the reason why this crash was happening was that, oh no, it's just a problem with the app. Everybody needs to do an update. Now, yeah, and it was only on Android. Okay. And I get that, but last year, this time, almost to the day, I think it was, early January, we found out that Facebook was actually causing, and this would obviously be done with, the flipping of a network switch, not the download of an app. And understand that, a lot of people are like, well, if there's some kind of security exploit, I'll keep my, if there's some kind of problem with an app, I won't update it. I'll turn off the auto update feature and then I'll be fine. When a lot of people don't realize, okay, that's nice that you're not going to update your apps and you're concerned about auto updates because who knows, they could update it to where something's tracking you or something. But, server side on their network, on Facebook's own network, like they still have total control. So it doesn't fucking matter. Like if they want to crash your app, they don't have to push an app update. They can just, start flipping switches on the network and you're screwed. So anyway, last year, this time, it was discovered and widely reported that Facebook was testing how do people react when the Facebook app is crashing or when there's varying problems. Now, I posted about this, okay, and it was kind of funny, too, because I didn't realize that I was posting, and, this happens, and usually before I record a show, I check the dates on everything, and I make sure everything's, kosher before I go live. But on social media, sometimes it gets a bit reactionary or whatever. Anyway, I shared this story and, not realizing at first blush that, oh, wait a minute, this is just reporting about last year. But what was funny is that after I posted it, underneath, everybody's like, oh, this was happening to me too on Thursday. It was happening to everybody. And then, of course, it was VentureBeat that actually finally announced it, that said, oh, yeah, just update your app and everything will be fine, and no problems. Yeah. Maybe I find that, the raw amount of people that were having issues with it, it smelled a lot like that. Again, really, it's a behavioral experiment. Like, let's fuck with the mice and take away their cheese for a little bit and all this. And I don't dig it. Oh, it's in their terms of service. Okay. Oh, then it's totally fine. Who cares? I mean, feeding you cyanide's in their terms of service. Who gives a shit, right? Is that the logic? Is that how this goes? Contractarians. Yeah, I think that shit's ugly. I don't know that that's what they were doing, but I kind of wonder, and it's always good to get reminded of just how fucking evil Facebook is. Just how kind of insidious that, that they can really be with their shit. That's to say nothing of the behavioral experiments they were doing on people where they were, really trying to okay, can we make people sad? Can we make them happy? Can we get them suicidal? They did that to how many people? 750,000 people, was it? That was a couple of years ago. Anyway, so if you were experiencing the problems, and I know a lot of you were, well, maybe that was the cause. Maybe that was the case. Or maybe it just needed an app update. We'll never know, because Facebook, if there's one thing they don't believe in, it's transparency. And we know how good that is for a company. So let's move on to another story, because I want to get into, we're going to talk some anarchism, baby, here in a minute. This was interesting. Gabe Newell, this is kind of a side comment here. And this is a little gaming news for you, okay? Gabe Newell, who is the head of Valve, which makes Steam the most popular gaming platform on the planet, and has millions and millions and millions of users. He was doing an AMA, and which he's done in the past, and usually he has to prove that it's actually him, and now he kind of does them live, so you can actually see him answering the questions as he answers them, like on an iPad or something. But anyway, he said something really interesting that for me is vindicating of something that I've been saying on Sovryn Tech for a while. About the gaming industry in general. And understand, I am a game developer myself, okay? I have my own little game company, Zomia Offline Games, 2 games deep, third one coming out very soon. Very excited about that. So anyway, Gabe was talking, he was doing this AMA, and I want to read a question that somebody says. I want to read to you his answer, and I'm not taking it out of context. The context is beautiful the way it is. And I mean, you can look up the AMA for yourself if you think I'm taking it out of context, but I want to share it with you because it proves a point that I've said on Sovryn Tech for years, ever since really this whole thing started. So let's do this. Here's the question. Hi, Gabe Newell. Why does Valve not talk to its community about the games/apps it's developing as much as other companies? Speaking of transparency, and the answer: because our decision making is way more conditional than most other companies. The one thing we won't do is, this is key, waste our customers' time and money, which means we will cancel or change stuff much later in development. Tracking our choices would be annoying and frustrating. Another way to think about this, and the way we talk about this internally, is that we prefer to communicate through our products. We are all pretty devoted to reading, listening to the community, blah, 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 blah. And anyway, he has a whole much longer, aspect to the answer. But here's the kicker right there is that line. The one thing we won't do is waste our customers' time and money, which means we will cancel or change stuff later in development. Now, what does this prove? This proves what I've been saying, that Steam Early Access, okay, like buying games in an alpha stage or a beta stage, is a waste of your money and time. That's pretty much what he's saying. He's like, well, because the question asker is like, well, how come you don't do early access? How come you don't let people in on stuff, right? And I was like, look, it's bullshit. Like me as a game developer, I'm never releasing beta versions of my game ever. Okay. I'll doesn't mean I wouldn't release an update, after it comes out. I'm just saying I'll never, ever do that. I think that is such horseshit. Steam Early Access is such a scam. And I think Gabe Newell just proved the point. I mean, first off, I don't understand how people even have the time to play a game at that level, like at that stage. Like, really, I can't even, my Steam account alone has well over 1,000 games. I haven't played a 10th of them. And I want to play a lot of these games. So like, I am baffled that there are people that have that much time to where they are willing to play a game at such an early stage. And in some of these games take years to finally get to 1.0, and are people still playing them? Like, it is the most confusing bit of economics I've ever seen. There's no, and unfortunately other companies are getting into it. GOG.com got into it recently. I can't believe it. I can't believe that this is doing money. What kind of time do people have? To where they're willing to spend time with such buggy shit. I'm baffled. I mean, there's so many done, finished, beautiful games out there. There's far more than there have ever been coming out all the time. Why the hell would you waste time with a beta game? I mean, unless it's for like a franchise, but most of these aren't for like a big franchise. Like, I'd get it. If it was a Star Wars game and I don't know, like if it was Star Wars lightsaber or something, okay, yep, I'll play the beta for that. But none of these are really for a gigantic franchise. So I'm totally baffled, but I think he said it. He said, we're not going to waste our customers' time and money. He's saying that early access, in my opinion, that's what he's saying, is that early access is a sham, that it's wasting people's time because there could be drastic changes later that could completely change the way that you play the game. And you're laying down money for all this horse shit. So I thought that was really, really fascinating and frankly, pretty vindicating. So I'll take it. All right, let's see what else we got for the foreplay here, and then we'll get into our big subject. Here's something fun I want to mention to you. I talked about this on the most recent Q&A episode this week on Patreon because this was so revolutionary for me, and I want you to check it out as well. I found a browser extension. They have it for at least for Chrome and Firefox. I know it's not for Edge. You could put it on Opera, and it might have it for Safari. It's called Stylish. You may have already heard about this, and if you have, you are amazing. You are wonderful. I am so glad that you're already using this thing, okay? But Stylish is an extension that all it does, and it's super lightweight, it takes up almost no process, okay? What it does is it just remaps the color of a website, okay? So like, for example, when you have Stylish on, you can make Facebook be like almost completely black. in white lettering and all this. Or you can go to Twitter and you can make Twitter look like the mobile app, the dark theme on the mobile app, where it's kind of that blue hue, that dark blue and all these different, shades of blue and everything. Or even Amazon, you can get rid of the bright white, like across the board. Or if you're using Google Docs, suddenly you can turn it into kind of a gray. And the interesting thing is that, like, say with Google Docs, while all it's doing is just remapping the coloring, it's not actually affecting the document. So, even if somebody else doesn't have stylish on, it's not like they're getting a dark gray document from you. They're going to get a document that looks just like, what it should normally, even if you change the color of fonts and all this horseshit, all this stuff. Right. So this is really, really cool because, oh man, like I think I can fall asleep at night now, just because I'm not like getting this bright white in my fucking face. Oh, I hate that. I get it. I know there's certain standards that especially large websites have to follow to where, there's people that, have varying degrees of color blindness and, and I appreciate that, that people have that condition and that you got to make websites that are not, you have to, but it's a good idea to make websites that, cater to that. And there's a few other reasons I think behind the white, but man, give people the option. Come on. So Stylish gives you the option. It's one of the best extensions or add-ons that I've ever seen. I totally recommend it. And it comes, they're not that they're pre-installed, but people have already made themes because it can be tricky to make a website look really good. And they constantly update the themes because, of course, websites are constantly updating, with different feature sets and everything. So it's really cool. And I think you go to userstyles.org to find all the themes. And there's a great search where you can just like type in the website that you're looking for and see if they have it. Like if you're using like tcrn.ch, there's a theme for that. There's a theme for Amazon. There's a theme for SoundCloud is awesome. Suddenly SoundCloud is not this searing white and orange anymore. Oh man, it's such a great extension. So just letting people know about that. It's called Stylish, Stylish, just how it sounds. One last bit, and this actually might lead in nicely to kind of our main subject this week. It's not going to be really a story. It's a subject. And that is, and I don't buy this. Amazon is claiming this week that they sold out of copies of 1984. George Orwell's 1984. And kind of the claim going around by the media is that, oh, this is because of Trump. This is because of President Trump. He's, everybody's scared to death of what he's going to do. It's like, and they're practicing newspeak with their alternative facts and, and all this crap. Right. And so, everybody's buying 1984 to find out, okay, how do we survive this? Of course, hate to tell you, 1984 doesn't have a good ending. Spoiler alert. But I guess, all right, just straight up. Look, I don't believe it. I just don't. I know now there's some cases where I think this is true. All right. So when Obama was going into, office, there was the reports that copies of Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged were flying off the shelves. I kind of believe that. You know why? Because at the time I had a little more money in my life and I was buying them off the shelves and giving them away to people at work. Like I was literally buying out Barnes and Noble in upstate New York. I was buying every copy they had. I can't even remember how many copies I bought. And around that time, it wasn't really necessarily around election time for Obama, but, at that time. So, in that case, yeah, I see it. In this one, it really just feels like PR, especially from Amazon, because first off, Trump has been very much against Amazon and has already claimed that he's going to effectively take antitrust action against Amazon. And the word goes around that, oh yeah, it's a monopoly. Now, of course, as we said for years on Sovereign Tech, and we've been tracking Amazon accurately long before the rest of the tech industry, or tech news industry. But, I said, no, Amazon's a monopsony, very different. Okay. Now some people are actually using that term. I guarantee they heard it from me. I guarantee it. Some of the biggest names too. But anyway, no, they're a monopsony, not a monopoly. Okay, they are going to control distribution, not so much control the production. All right, that's the difference between monopoly and monopsony. And he's saying he wants to go after them. So I think this is really just like, I think Bezos would do this. I think he would say that, here we go. Tell everybody that we sold out in 1984. Which is, and it's ironic too, because with Kindles, when the Kindles first came out, years ago, okay, there was the scandal, really, that Amazon themselves ripped away every copy of 1984 and Animal Farm that was on people's Kindles because of a copyright, infringement. The irony that Amazon is somehow, oh, look, every copy of 1984 sold out. Well, maybe it's not because of Trump. Maybe it's because people are scared to death that you're going to take it away from their Kindles, Jeff Bezos, which you already did. I mean, it's hilarious. I hope, in my wildest fantasies, yes, everybody would be well-versed in Newspeak, or in identifying Newspeak, not in speaking it. And everybody would have a copy of 1984 and they'd be scared to death of all the shit, or not scared to death, but that they'd be concerned, intelligently concerned over all of this. But I don't buy it. I don't think I think this is marketing. This is a marketing fucking ploy. I really don't believe that this is actually going on. Like that a bunch of people just suddenly went out and bought, because I don't think that many people go out and buy paper books. And you can get it. I mean, I think you can still get 1984. I mean, how hard is it to download a book for free? Come on. So I don't know. Anyway, that's a story. I think that story that's I can't help but feel like that's Bezos saying, taking a shot at Trump. Really. That's my shtick, my opinion on it. All right, enough foreplay, baby. Let's get into kind of the main subject I want to talk about. Now, remember that, I will, in the show notes for this episode, for episode 210, I will put in a timestamp to where you can completely skip this next conversation and get right back into the tech news, because we have a lot more to get into later on in the show. I mean, a lot more. All right. So the subject I'm going to get into here is, well, okay, so someone messaged me on Patreon and said, look, there is a segment I was recently on. All right, backstory. I have recently been on, along with the lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy. I have been on the School Sucks podcast with my very, very dear friend, Brett Venat, who, I just love the man, just phenomenal guy. And on his show, we did a series called Empathon recently, which had to do with, well, we were kind of this left-right paradigm, sort of the rise of SJWs and kind of the rise of the alt-right and all this. All right. And we can talk about more after I play this clip, but we're on it. And I got to a point in one of the episodes, and this is multi-hours long. You can find all the episodes of Empathon, as in empathy. You can find them all at the School Sucks Project website, schoolsucksproject.com. And you can listen to all of it, and these have been heavily debated, like, because there's a School Sucks group on Facebook, and people are really like tearing these episodes apart, and largely, and we've gotten a lot of positive response as well from people, Stephanie and I, and Brett too. So, these have been pretty divisive, and there was a point in one of the episodes, in fact, it was episode 470. And it's about 52 minutes in on the episode and I said, this is last week. I said last week's Sovryn Tech, episode 209, I said I would talk about this in this episode. So that's what I'm doing right now. And there was a point that I brought up, and a great listener of Sovryn Tech said, I really think that this point you made needs to be heard by the Sovryn Tech audience, because there's probably a lot of people that listen to Sovryn Tech that don't listen to School Sucks. And as far as I know, that last bit of the statement is absolutely true. That yes, there are a lot of people that listen to this show that do not listen to School Sucks. I certainly recommend people do listen to it, because I like that it has it presses for intellectual self-defense, which I think is a very important thing to do. Anyway. So now I'm going to play the clip that the Sovryn Tech listener was talking about. It's not long. Okay. But you'll hear from Brett, you'll hear from me, and there will be, a bit of, the lovely and hyper intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy, putting in a very solid point about empathy as well. And then I do want to talk about it. Now I want to be really clear here when I play this clip. And when I talk about this, I am not here, attacking what anybody said, because I'm only going to talk about what I said. I'm not going to talk about what everybody else said. All right. This is not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm just going to bolster and talk further and expound upon what I said on the show. That's all I'm doing. All right. So, don't worry, because to some degree, I feel like a lot of people were trying to throw us under the bus. No one involved with the show, but because, well, anyway, yeah, the reactions have been something. So I want you to, listen to this clip. And then, I'm going to break down more on it, because especially right now, I think this is a really, really important subject that is just, it's not, that I think people need to understand and grasp. You may not agree with it, but listen to me about it. So anyway, here we go from episode 470 of the School Sucks podcast.
A lot of what we're seeing in this turn towards trying to root out what people consider to be a leftist element inside libertarianism is their concern about the dilution of what libertarianism actually is all about. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I think that this falls in with what I wanted to say. I mean, I listened to the episode you did with Nick Hazelton, which was, an enjoyable episode. Points I could disagree with, but I thought it was good. And the one thing that I like that you brought up, because I was waiting for somebody to say it, was, division's not some terrible thing. I mean, like I almost think that there's a conspiracy in Hollywood or somewhere on this whole idea that everybody's got to be unified. Everybody's got to be thinking the same way. We've all got to be together on this. We got to move forward. And I totally disagree. Just like with where I think some of the most important works that have been passed down through time have been, books of arguments, not with some kind of end game. Not to say that there isn't an objective truth. There absolutely is such a thing as objective truth. There's an objective reality. There's an objective existence. There's no, I don't doubt that for a second. But I think that also division is something that also keeps things fresh and evolving and getting you to the points that you are now. I mean, even if, I don't want to give Christians any credit at all. But I mean, Christianity survived today because there had been constant, not that this is how I do things, but there had been constant infighting forever from, even before Protestants and Catholicism. There was the schism between the Orthodox and the Catholics because there was always this argument going on. But that's what actually allowed it to survive and keep on going, is the fact that there was always this, very, very passion. It comes down to passion.
Also, there's new people coming in all the time, and maybe you have gone through these discussions and debates and figured out where you stand on those key issues, but they haven't yet, and they're just seeing it for the first time. And so keeping the discussion going is really helpful for new people and for growth of a movement. And also, like when it starts to stagnate, then you don't have a movement, you have a cult. Right. Where everybody's thinking the same way.
Yeah, I don't agree with unity at all. And I mean, and it's downright annoying just how much it is in culture that it's like, oh, if we just all work together. Like every time I hear that, my red alert goes off in my head.
But that's the great thing about having empathy and compassion. Like, to bring this back to its title, there's a way to listen to somebody and empathize with them and put yourself in their shoes and understand on a really deep level what they're saying and even relate to it, but not agree with it. It doesn't require that you agree. It's just that you're really listening to them.
Yeah. Now, we're going to have to bookmark that because my conclusion at this point about a lot of the people I've observed in both sides of the current political conflict in terms of social justice and the alternative right, empathy is not part of the equation.
Yeah.
You are an identity before you're anything else. I think that is equally true on both sides. The emergence of the alt-right is only a response to the identitarianism of the left.
So there you have it. And Stephanie's points were so right on. I mean, there's so much even to unpack just in what she said, and we'll get into some of it. But I want to describe a little bit about me. Now, and kind of like why I was on that show in the first place, and that will lead into exactly the importance of what I think, and obviously what a Sovryn Tech listener thought, or at least what I think they thought, the importance of my statements there about division being a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing. That arguing, it philosophically and all of that is actually a great thing. It's not a bad thing at all. Not all being on board with the same ideology, same ideals is actually a really good thing. I'll get into that, but I want to tell you a little bit, a little bit about me that maybe you don't know, because like Stephanie said, you get a lot of new people into, anarchism and a lot of these different ideological movements and whatever. I get a lot of new listeners all the time. And so maybe you don't know what I mean by anarchism. Now, I do not. I know a lot of my listeners are, and hey, rock and roll. Okay. A lot of my listeners are what are known as anarcho-capitalists. Okay. Which means that they don't want any government. They just want what they see as free markets. Okay, that's what they're looking for, and so they kind of take on the term of capitalism. I think it's a bad idea, to take on the term capitalism, because first off, it was created, by Karl Marx. It's created by a detractor. It's never been, it's never meant to be something that is complementary. And also capitalism itself, has there's so much baggage with that word. That's a subject I talk about a million times. I don't need to talk about that here. I have listeners that are anarcho-communists or anarcho-syndicalists. I have listeners along the entire color spectrum. It's like the Green Lantern Corps or something. I have so many listeners, and I hear from all of you, and I think it's wonderful that I get to reach so many different, persuasions. Myself, I'm willing to self-identify. I generally just run with anarchists, but, just to make it clear, here's the thing is that on social media and on some other areas, I have to caveat things. I have to make sure people know, look, okay, I don't have a problem with markets. I think markets are a fine thing. I'm all about a freed market. That's fine. But understand, I do not fall under a lot of the solutions that make up what is anarcho-capitalism. Or at least the proponents of anarcho-capitalism, that, the solutions they come up with and all this. So please do not call me an anarcho-capitalist, even though I've had people tell me, that, hey, I put you as an anarcho-capitalist because you do capitalism better than most anarcho-capitalists do. Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I take the compliment for what it is. So I caveat usually with saying I'm an egoist anarchist, which is pretty much just egoism is not egotism. Okay. Not egotistical. Egoism is the school of Max Stirner, who's, well known for writing The Ego and Its Own, by some considered like the sort of the original libertarian work. I mean, there's a lot of heavy debate on that, which a debate I'm not going to get into right now. But largely I generally just see myself as anarchist, and that's usually how I put it, unless I feel the need to really denote that, no, I am not like you. Now I also get lumped in another term that I get lumped into, and this is part of the reason that I think I was asked to be on Empathon, and understand I was asked to be on that show. All right. Anytime I'm on, I never ask anybody, hey, can I be on your show? I never, ever ask. I wait for the offer. Because, if I'm asking, I feel like I'm imposing. It's, you know what I mean? And not that there's anything wrong with asking necessarily. I'm just saying that's how I feel about it. So I was asked to be on there. But the reason is because I get labeled as a left libertarian because I don't agree with the solutions that a lot of dipshits in anarcho-capitalism espouse. Okay, I'm not a big one on contracts. I am not 100% solid, and this is coming from Max Stirner himself, I am not 100% solid on the dogma of property. Okay, I have issues with the phrase self-ownership. I do not believe in rights. Of course, there are ANCAPs that don't, which is short for anarcho-capitalism, that also don't believe in rights, but there you go. Okay, so I'm not alone on that. That's perhaps the least strange of some of my, anarchist ideals. So, but I get labeled a left libertarian. I get labeled as a lefty. Now, understand, I don't label myself that way. I use the term because it makes it, just like any label, it makes it simple during conversation, right? But understand that those get applied to me. Like there was on Empathon, there was a horseshoe, okay, diagram that was used for one of the episodes. And, Brett kindly asked, okay, hey, where exactly do you and Stephanie kind of fit on this? And we're like, okay, yeah, we get it. Under the, in the eyes of libertarians, we slide to the left, towards like mutualists and all that stuff, which understand, I am a huge fan of Kevin Carson's work. Roderick Long, Kevin Carson, William Gillis, all, a lot of those guys, I'm a big fan of their work. Not saying I agree 100% of the time, but I'm a big fan. C4SS, that's my go-to website for so much. So I get put, but you got to get it. Like, I get put there by libertarians. That's not necessarily where I see myself. I see myself at the top of the horseshoe. Okay. Or, horseshoe theory where like, no, I'm smack in the middle. I'm all about freedom, and liberty. Okay. So understand that. But now in saying all of that, let's break down, let's unpack what I was talking about, in that. And this kind of argumentation over like just some of the brief things that I just described in, my small differences that I have with so many other, people that would also identify as anarchists in one form or fashion. I only got to where I am now, shall we say, philosophically. And I'm not saying I'm on some high perch or something. Okay. But I got where I am because of constant engagement with ideas that either at one point I did agree with or ideas that I don't agree with at all. And it doesn't have to be, it wasn't violent engagement. Okay. It might not have even been yelling, though. Even that can be okay. But it's because of engagement with different ideas. And just like, it's like the statue, right? You're kind of chipping away at the non-essentials and all that. I mean, that's the nature of the search for truth. The nature, truth is a crucible, right? And, it's a crucible because you have to keep hammering away at it until you end up with a pure product. You cannot have any fluff. Otherwise, it's not the truth. The truth is a pure product. And as I said in that clip, there is an objective reality. Okay. There is an objective existence. I agree with Ayn Rand's 3 axioms. I mean, I don't agree with Ayn Rand on a few other issues, but as far as like, small o objectivism, I am so, I'm so there. There is an objective reality. Okay. There is an objective identity. There is an objective existence. I'd like, absolutely. There is an objective truth. There is such a thing as truth. This is not Pontius Pilate saying what is truth. But you have to do that hammering out. And that constant, that constant search for truth, that evolution of thought, that evolution of, and getting to new ideas. And believe me, there are I still, I'm a big believer in that, the old saying of there's nothing new under the sun. And to some degree there isn't. Okay. But there really are, everything's a remix. Yep. I get that. I get a lot of these things, but there really are new ideas. There's new amalgamations of thought that can come together and that have never been heard before. And I think some people are working those out. I think some of it might have gotten worked out on Empathon itself. But you only get to those by, stepping into the fire of, philosophical debate and figuring this stuff out. And so, I don't agree with the idea that, we all got to think this way, or we all got to act this way. We all have to, like I was saying in that, we all have to do the same thing. And if we could finally end the government, if we just all united, and did this and finally said, we're not going to pay taxes anymore, blah, blah, blah. Nope. Because the only way that anything like that ever happens, quite frankly, is when there's a fucking tyrant at the head. Oh, he may not be the tyrant that was, that is a part of the government that you're trying to take down. But that's really the only way that I think that happens, is there ends up becoming this sort of figurehead. Otherwise humans can't get together like that. They just can't. They're not designed to. They never were. That doesn't mean just because you're not all thinking the same that everybody's out there killing each other either, or that it turns into, some kind of neo-tribalism and neo-tribal warfare. No, there's no call for that. There's a simple baseline thing that exists with even the quote unquote lowest life forms on the planet, including rats. It's called empathy. That's what Stephanie was bringing up, was empathy. And Max Stirner, actually, whether he uses the term or not, really did talk about empathy. Just most people don't get to the second half of the ego in its own, so they miss it. But the concept is that you love who you are. You love human existence. And by default, that makes you love other human existences when you're in touch with your own self-love. This is hedonism as well. A lot of which I've talked recently about on Patreon. And nothing new for Sovereign Tech listeners. I mean, I've always identified as a hedonist, an ethical hedonist. And when you have that self-love, why would you go to war with people? There's no need. You're taking care of yourself. And by default, I mean, in taking care of yourself, you probably want to experience the love of others. And so you don't shoot people if you want to experience their love, do you? No. But you also don't have to agree with everyone on everything. You don't all have to okay, everybody has to use the market system or it's a failure or everybody else is a communist, and all. It's fucking stop. What are you talking about? Why? What evidence do you even have, frankly, because this is an old argument too, right? Is that, communist, because all the communists, what they always say, and look, I'm not a communist. I'm just saying all the communists, they always say that, the USSR, Stalinism, the tankies, that wasn't real communism. Real communism can actually work, but it's just never really been practiced. And, then the argument, there's a meme went around that kind of brought this out, but I've said it before on Sovryn Tech. So, I know I was ahead of the curve. Where it says something to the effect, so you're saying communism looks good on paper. Well, that's nice. Welcome to the real world. Fuck your paper. And it's like, okay, well, where exactly was there ever a free market? Oh, you're saying it looks good on, well, no, yeah, we don't have a free market right now, but this is how it would work. And it's like, so you're saying it looks good on paper. There are so many different things that humans, that in the evolution of human thought and the evolution of human existence and the human condition, that have not been tried, that have not been put together to create what is effectively a new thought. The evolution of, I mean, you could say, human existence. Well, boy, where I want to go with that, because there's a lot, there's a lot of caveats, a lot of nuance in all this. Okay. But, and I've said this to people before, look, especially to ANCAPs, go read a book by Proudhon, go read a book by, some red and black anarchist or something, or whatever persuasion, go read a book from one of them. And you don't have to agree with everything. They're going to say they're anti-capitalism right out of the gate. And you've heard me say this before. Okay. But there are going to be ideas in there that you're probably going to be like, holy shit, why didn't I think of that? I'm going to use that, and just take what you want from it. Okay, but you would have never had those ideas if we didn't go through this constant search for truth, this constant search for objective truth, this constant search for what is the goal of human existence, to be happy, this constant search for happiness. It's interesting, in my opinion, it's interesting that Thomas Jefferson, not somebody I'm going to give a ton of credit to, okay, guy owned slaves, that Thomas Jefferson changed, everybody's like, he just based his, his little Declaration of Independence on John Locke, and John Locke said it was life, liberty, and property. Jefferson changed it to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I think that's very interesting that he didn't use the word property. I'm not saying that he was knocking property. Obviously, he didn't mind owning people. And there are libertarians / ANCAPs that think you can own people. But I think it's fascinating that it comes up that, you need to pursue happiness and what shape that takes. And that's a very open kind of, I think that in many ways that leads to this idea that, in the pursuit of happiness is the constant evolution of the human condition and of human thought, new philosophical realms, new realms across the board. And we can engage in this. And if it gets heated at times, let it fucking get heated. Do not, I love the Mark Twain quote where, it's effectively, if you suddenly find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Meaning, how the hell did you end up on the majority? There shouldn't be a majority, right? And that's the thing, is that if you're constantly growing, learning, becoming, a better, newer person every single day, there's no way that there should even, for everybody, there's no way that there should be, gigantic groups that identify with this or that. I mean, it's all, do you get my point? Something I brought up, and it's later on in the episode, is, and I was bringing it up there as well, with the Christians. I mean, this is how ideas survive, how philosophical schools continue on, and I mean that in the abstract, continue on, is by this constant argument. I brought up the Talmud. Okay. Now I grew up, I'm ethnically Jewish. I was raised Jewish, family ended up converting to Christianity later in life, but whatever. I'm an atheist now. So, but do you want to know how, do you want to know how I became an atheist? Because we went from Judaism to Christianity, and I said, wait a second, these can't both be true. What the fuck's going on here? And through that, conflict of ideas, I ended up with what I consider the objective truth. There is no God. It took that growth, though. But anyway, the Talmud itself, which is, a very holy book in Judaism. In fact, it's held equally with Torah, with the Tanakh, with the what Christians know as the Old Testament. Okay, now this book, the Talmud itself, which there's a couple different ones. I'm not going to get into all that, okay? But understand that the Talmud is just a gigantic book of arguments where, various rabbis were just going back and forth with each other. Well, I think the Torah means this. I think the Mishnah means this. I think it means this. I think it means this. And it's going back and forth, back and forth. And the conversations around that is what is actually, in my opinion, is what has largely allowed Judaism to survive. You may not like Judaism surviving, okay, or any religion surviving, and I understand that. I'm just saying that understand that this constant what does this mean? This constant search for truth just within these old texts is what keeps the thing alive, because people are constantly arguing, well, what does this mean? Division is a good thing. You do not want to be united. Be united in the property of your the biochemistry of your brain that allows you to have empathy. Fine. So you love you love fellow man. I mean, fuck. In Judaism, what did all the elders said? I mean, he wrapped it all up so beautifully. He said, that which is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. This is the whole Torah. The rest is explanation. Go and learn. Right? That was 2,000 years ago. I mean, most people got this, is that the search for wisdom begins in understanding that you love yourself. And by default, you loving yourself, you love humanity, okay? And then everything else after that is explanation and just figuring all this shit out, all right? So, but understand within that is just tons and tons of divisions, tons of different ways. I mean, the human condition is incredibly complex. There is no one way. This drives me nuts with a lot of libertarians, a lot of other people, is that they're all like, well, we got to have these hard and fast rules as long as it's voluntary, baby. No, that ain't good enough. There's a lot of complexities. There's not just, it's almost a quantum existence. I mean, there's so much that comprises the human condition. I'm sorry. Sometimes there are not simple rules. Sometimes there are, but a lot of times there isn't. And you're going to argue about those, and that's okay. And that's a good thing. Revel in them. If you want to do it respectfully, awesome. A lot of people can't, and the internet really doesn't allow for a whole ton of respect, quite frankly. But these ideas, everything, it's got to be meted out. And it's going to be meted out into eternity. Look, when, I think there is an eternity, not an afterlife, but I don't think time is going to end. That's another conversation. But when humanity starts, and I really think humanity is going to do this, when it starts colonizing the solar system, people are going to have to start thinking differently about things. I mean, there's going to be new ways of thinking about shit. Just by default, you can't help it, because there's new living conditions, there's new new challenges, there's so much. Enjoy it. Stop talking about how oh man, I saw the most dumb ass fucking post this week from a dumb ass. I mean a dumb ass. And actually, frankly, this guy has clearly said that, look, no, you don't have to be nice to people. And look, I don't think you have to be nice to people. I just think it's a good idea. But he was pretty much saying, no, it's all right to be a jerk. And this guy comes out and says, oh, the left is burning. The left is almost over. It's all coming to an end and all this shit, right? Give me a break. Then who are you going to... people don't realize it. It's never going to end. There is always going to be, it's not an other, everybody's human, but there's always going to be different ideological persuasions. There's always going to be new exploration of new ideas to celebrate in the downfall of, I'm baffled. I'm absolutely baffled by that. And it's just, it's a nonsense statement to even make. Somehow you have that kind of understanding of other people when you don't even take the time to even try to understand those other people. You just shout them down. So my point is that division of ideologies is a fine and dandy thing. Okay. People working together, when people buy into this idea that everybody needs to be working together, that's how nations get formed. And nations are shit. Nations need to end. Metaphorically, nations need to burn to the ground. The world is not safe. Getting together in massive groups of people does not make the world safe. It actually just creates a tyrant, a police force. It does the exact opposite when people get together in those numbers, in my opinion. So my message here is quite simply, because I kind of expounded even beyond what I originally wanted to say. My message here is quite simply, understand, get in touch with empathy for one. Get in touch with loving yourself. That's how it all starts. And then enjoy, take a delight. Kind of like Gene Roddenberry said. It said, until we take a delight in our differences, we're never going to be able, to survive when we get to the stars if we don't. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. Take a delight in the fact that people think differently. Take a delight that they want to experiment in different ways, that they want to try different, perhaps economic models, different lifestyles, all these different things. Enjoy it. Stop thinking that everything has to be the traditional family, democracy, and capitalism. Woo! Because no, it doesn't. And you are a tyrant if you are trying to force that upon people. So there you have it. I will put the timestamp, as I said, in the show notes to when this ends. And appreciate the division, appreciate the arguments, and let them go on forever, because that's how we get anywhere as human beings. And I'll tell you, the worst thing that you could ever do to keep people from experiencing perhaps these new thoughts and all that is to put a wall around yourself. Don't you dare be doing that. And woo, looking at you, President Trump. Oh yeah, baby. Woo, we'll be back with some more Sovereign Tech right after this. Hey, we're talking about trying something new, maybe something you haven't looked into yet. Maybe you've been really big on the crypto economy, which, woo, I'm with you, baby. Maybe you want to diversify a bit within that. And what I want you to do is I want you to go, and I know you're going to be shocked by this, maybe get your hands on some gold and silver. What? That's such an old idea. Yeah. But it might be the new hotness, because it's the new cold storage, in my opinion, baby. Okay, so I want you to go to Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. Okay, these guys are phenomenal. Go to gold.zog.ninja. You can buy precious metals with Bitcoin, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, all the different ways you like it. Get your hands on it. It's one of the best businesses in the world, and we thank them for supporting Sovereign Tech. Woo! How about that? Flash that one on you. So gold.zog.ninja. There we go. We're breaking right into HackSec here. So, but please do, and thanks so much to our sponsors for Sovereign Tech over the years. Really, really kept this, what I think is a very unique, and I don't have to think it, I get told it, a very unique message, in the world, frankly. And so anyway, hope you enjoyed the last segment there, and hope my point was made. And if you disagree with me, guess what? I win, because that's my whole point. Is that it's okay to disagree. Woo, amazing. All right. Wow, we have actually a few stories to get in here with HackSec, because it's been a hell of a week, and I'm gonna, oh boy, I'm actually gonna lay down a couple websites on you. I know people have really loved, reading those websites, or, using the websites that I've mentioned, like at the beginning of the show. And I had ones to share with you at the beginning of the show as well, but they're all pretty appertinent to what we're going to discuss, as far as story-wise during HackSec, that I was like, well, I'll just mention them then. So, but what I want to start off with is a bit of a warning here. And we're going to go right down the list of these, really, of different apps. And these are all related to, largely related to Android, or one of them in particular is about Android, but, be concerned with iOS as well. It's all applicable to iOS too. The first story is actually from TechCrunch, and it's the cost of hot selfie app Meitu. I think it's pronounced Meitu. A healthy dose of your personal info. Now, a selfie app, I have not used one of these things. I get it. I think Snapchat started this whole thing. Personally, I find them annoying as fuck, where it puts a filter, not like an Instagram filter where it changes the entire picture, but it puts a filter kind of over your face. I understand and actually empathize with why some people might really like these for a few different reasons. Okay. Perhaps it's, it can make people look younger and whatever else. And okay. I'm, no judge there. I'm just saying when I see the pictures, how can I put this? My need for authenticity is not met. I don't dig it. And it's not like people are going for the weird, like it'd be, all right. It'd be kind of cool if these selfie apps like made you look like an Orion woman, from Star Trek where you were green. Like that could be sexy. I'm down with that. But anyway, I suppose there's already been apps forever that could make your skin green. But so Meitu is one of these newer ones out of China. And I'm just going to read a little bit of the story here because, it's very simple to explain. But so here it is from TechCrunch. You've probably seen a Meitu selfie in your Instagram or Facebook feed in the past 24 hours. The app smooths skin, slims down faces, and even applies a layer of virtual blush and lip gloss, adding a beautifying effect to your photos. I didn't even get into the kind of the gender norm pushing that this does, but whatever. And although the app has been popular in China for years, Meitu went public in Hong Kong last month. It only recently caught on with American users, but security experts quickly pointed out that Meitu, which is a free to download in the Google Play and the App Store, requires, I guess they're just calling it that now, just Google Play instead of Google Play Store. I've noticed that trend recently. Requires way more data from users' phones than is necessary for a simple photo app and contains some allegedly sketchy code. To be fair, Meitu isn't the only app that allows users to download it for free in exchange for their data, but privacy-conscious users might want to think twice about the data that they let apps collect. It's normal for a photo app to require permission to access a phone's camera and in camera roll so that it can take pictures or edit ones already on the device. But as information security researcher Greg Linares notes, the Android version of Meitu wants a lot more than that. The app can access information about what other apps users are running, their precise locations, their unique device identifier numbers. Now, what that is, that's your IMSI. Like this is, this is really precious information, especially like if somebody really wants to attack you, wants to, do an exploit on your digital life. This is the number you want to know. Call information, carrier information, and Wi-Fi connections. The iOS version is similarly data hungry, according to forensic expert Jonathan Zdarsky. Although Apple takes steps to block apps from capturing users' IMSIs, Zdarsky points out that Meitu is grabbing information about your cell carrier and whether or not your iPhone is jailbroken. Zdarsky notes that some of Meitu's code may violate App Store policies on data collection. Apple did not respond to a request for comment by about Meitu. So, and the story kind of goes on, but there was apparently Meitu did get in, later on after this, this article came out, Meitu did say, okay, here's a detailed description of the permissions that it's using, and it broke a lot of it down. Now, here's the thing is that, what was the purpose of this? Why are they doing it? It may not be necessarily nefarious. Okay. And we're going to get into other apps too, because we're doing like a full app breakdown here for HackSec this week on Sovryn Tech. Okay. With Meitu, yeah, it's really probably to just sell off certain information to advertisers, right? Like that's kind of the big shtick. That's where most of the money comes. When it's a free app, somewhere someone's paying something, and generally it is from advertisers, and to be able to give this information to advertisers, and it is helpful. Okay, it's not helpful for you. It is helpful to advertisers to have all of this wacky information. Now, the irony is that the way that this story was getting schlepped around was that, oh shit, the Chinese, and just like that abstract concept of the Chinese, not like there's a difference between the Chinese people and the Chinese government, but whatever. The Chinese are collecting all of this information about you. They have all these numbers, blah, blah, blah. This is terrible. Joe Biden was right. God damn it. Okay. First off, reality check. That phone you're holding in your hand, whether you installed Meitu or not, and I don't care if it's the fucking iPhone, was made in China, largely. Or it has a ton of parts from Foxconn or whatever. If you're concerned about the Chinese, if you're concerned about the Chi-Coms coming after you or getting your information, guess what? You lost way before Meitu, way before a single app got installed on your phone, if that's your concern. So, people freaking out about this. I mean, it was hilarious looking at social media. Oh, the Chinese government, they're collecting all this information about us. And it's like, oh, what, on that phone from China that you got? Now, I think it's crazy. Like, I mean, this is really, it's egregious. But understand that if you have a problem with the permissions that Meitu asked for, you better delete that fucking Facebook Messenger off your phone. Because Facebook Messenger asks for even more. Facebook Messenger literally, based upon the permissions, takes over your phone. It controls the whole goddamn thing. You hand your phone over to Facebook the instant you install Facebook Messenger. Okay, so I'm not saying what happened with Meitu is right. Like, I get it. I think it sucks. It's terrible. And that's why I hate so many free or freemium models. Okay, I mean, there's plenty of great free apps, and that's because they're open source and they come from people with a certain ethic, a certain, philosophical bent that they just want apps to be free, and they have a joy, and maybe, it's kind of their side piece, to make this app and everything, and that's all fine and dandy. So don't just say because it's free that you can't trust it. No, you certainly can. But, there's times where it's like with this app Meitu that, oh yeah, what's going on here? Well, that's how it's going. Now, I mean, there's other ways to do this too. You could still make a free app. For example, the Line Messenger, right? That's out of Japan. That funds itself. I mean, I'm sure they do some degree of collecting for advertisers, but really it advertises its own platform because Line is a gigantic, full-featured, in fact, more full-featured than any other messaging app ecosystem out there, in my opinion. That where they sell like sticker packs, they sell, themes for the messenger itself. They have like a store that interacts with the messaging platform itself. And so that's how you could fund things. I mean, there's lots of ways to fund things without having to run to advertisers. It's annoying as fuck that everybody does go to advertisers. So, but with Meitu, just reality check, folks. If you're concerned about that, first off, if you're concerned about the Chinese in particular, maybe you're like, well, yeah, but Facebook Messenger is an American company. Zuckerberg's going to be president in 2020 anyway, so I don't give a shit. He can have all my information because he's got it. Whew, okay. Let's say you think that way, folks, then guess what? You better not be buying phones in China. Good luck finding one that isn't. Good luck if you're thinking that way. It's crazy. And, again, at the end of the day, the NSA is already collecting everything anyway. It's like, I'd almost rather the Chinese government use it because at least the Chinese government, isn't like bombing every country on the planet. Still, even after Trump gets in office, which, that's going to be a mess. Anyway, that's another conversation for another time, but not exactly, because something interesting happened with another a very popular messaging, Meitu isn't a messaging app, but we were talking about messaging apps. But with a popular messaging app, there have been some very interesting concerns, and that would be Telegram. Now, I want to caveat this bit of conversation with, look, I understand all of the concerns about Telegram. I understand the, storing some stuff in plain text, client side, which we talked about that earlier, which Telegram does as well. I get all of them. Do not write me saying, but Telegram does this. I know. Okay. I recommend Telegram as an alternative platform to Facebook. That's the way that I bill it. Now, there was a time where I was very excited about it. I still think that there's still a lot of great things to be said about, especially the business around Telegram, like Pavel Durov and others with their attitude, because we are talking about anarchists here that run this thing, which is great. In fact, it was funny. This week, just this past week on This Week in Tech, they had, of course, Leah Laporte. They had Ian Thompson, who I love from the Register, and they had what's his name there, the VC, shit, Jason Calacanis. That's it, Jason Calacanis. So they were doing a bit of a roundtable, and they were talking about Signal at one point, and the most amazing thing came up. Ian Thompson, and I tweeted at him, and I said, "Man, you made my year," and he said, "Absolutely." Well, anyway, he said that he thought it was a good thing that an anarchist was running Signal. He said he'd rather have a purist, and this is what he tweeted to me, so you're getting this exclusive on Sovryn Tech. He said, I'd rather have a purist running, a messaging platform than a profiteer. And I was like, fuck yes. Bingo. There you go. And that's, not that there's anything wrong with, profit. Of course, I say this all the time. Yeah, or Ayn Rand said profit isn't a dirty word. Well, of course, I always add, this is the little Brian Sovryn edition, neither is value. Value is not a dirty word either. But anyway, yeah, you should appreciate, and I'm glad that got said on such a gigantic platform, which Twit is, that, hey, we want anarchists running this shit. Woo! That means anarchism's winning, baby, in 2017. I love it. Okay. But yeah, I mean, Telegram is also an anarchist-run app. Just like Signal. It's not as solid as Signal, not by a long shot, but it is, it's very full-featured and all this, and it is being run by anarchists. So there's something to be said for that. But anyway, this is a story from The Verge. Trump leak raises new questions about Telegram security. I'll read just a little bit here. Last night, BuzzFeed published, and this is just from this week, an unconfirmed intelligence report on President-elect Donald Trump's ties with Russia, sending the political world into red alert. But as explosive as the Trump allegations were, there was one passage that was particularly interesting for cryptography buffs concerning the popular Telegram chat app, and it is very popular, millions of users. Reading on. According to one of the report's unidentified sources, the app may not be as secure as it seems. In FSB, of course, that's, kind of like the new KGB over there, cyber operative flagged up the Telegram enciphered commercial system as having been of a special concern and therefore heavily targeted by the FSB, not least because it was used frequently by Russian internal political activists and oppositionists. Her understanding was that the FSB now successfully had cracked this communication software and therefore it was no longer secure to use. So effectively, Telegram is wrapped up in a lot of, here, I'll read just a little bit more. The report raised an alarming thought for Telegram users. Could Russia have an inside line to one of the most popular encrypted chat programs? Reached by The Verge, Telegram emphasized the vague and unconfirmed nature of the report. Quote, "We think the report is likely to be fake," end quote. A Telegram representative said, quote, but if it is not, it probably refers to the story of SMS interception by FSB in April 2016 or a similar incident. So here's the deal with what this is really saying. I mean, the claim is that, yeah, Russia can read, anything being said on Telegram, like that. That's sort of and again, it is an unconfirmed intelligence report, and that's what's going down. And that, there's attack vectors being used to, I don't know. I mean, Trump's connection to this is a slightly tenuous. So, but regardless, I mean, that's probably just more for the headline. But Telegram there was a problem, not that Telegram itself was cracked into. Okay. What happened is that two-factor authentication, or not two-factor, but the SMS login code that gets sent, to you, via SMS, earlier in 2016 was, there was effectively man in the middle, and that people could take advantage of that login code and get into your account. Now, Telegram set up a very simple system to keep that from being able to happen, and that is they set up a second-factor authentication in that there is a second password. There's the password for your account, right? So what you do is you log in with your username or your phone number, and then you have your normal password. Then you get a login code from Telegram to log in. Okay, say it's on a new device. Then also, if you're on a new device, it will ask you, what you can do is you can set up the two-factor authentication. Then it will ask you for another password, different from the first one. And then, if you get man in the middle with SMS, it doesn't really matter. It's useless for that to occur. And if you forget that second password, you're screwed. Well, I mean, there's some recovery options, but you have to set those up. The recovery options, could become a problem, of course. The best thing to do is just remember that second password. So there's the potential that, this whole thing, all the Telegram has been, the FSB can read it and all this, and oh shit, Russia's working with President Trump. So, everything's cracked. All this encryption's cracked. We're screwed. That is assuming a lot. Okay. That is really assuming a lot. Now, I have said for years now that, look, do not bet your life on Telegram. Okay. If you need to send something really important, if you're doing some kind of activism, shit like this, use Signal or use, a really great email option, kind of like we were talking about earlier. Do not use Telegram for that sort of thing. And, and then this is all kind of a moot point. But also, if you do still use Telegram, it's a good idea, if you haven't already, set up that two-factor authentication. Now, is the MT Proto, right? That's the encryption protocol that they made. This is the big concern with Telegram, is that they did not go with a tried and true, cryptographic protocol. They made their own called MT Proto. And in most people's eyes, that's seen as, suicide. Like, why the hell would you do that? Because it hasn't been tested, blah, blah, blah. And I get that. Okay. And like I said, my caveats are already out there. All right. But understand that this may not be the Telegram. Like, that report could be referencing that SMS crack, and really not that somehow MT Proto has been broken. Now, if you want to keep track of this sort of thing, I actually put a link in the show notes to a website that was sent to me by a Sovryn Tech listener, and thank you so much for that. This is really, really slick, and it's securemessagingapps.com. And this is a really slick site. Like, it covers under, let's see, there's Allo, iMessage, Messenger, Signal, Skype, Telegram, Threema, Viber, WhatsApp, Wickr, Wire. I mean, just, all these different apps, and it does this really deep breakdown with a lot of different metrics, really, that even like the EFF doesn't do. Now, this is being done by an independent party, somebody that doesn't work for any of them. And, take that with however many grains of salt you want. But I thought it was really good. Like, I mean, some of these are really deep. Does the app use certificate pinning? Does the app allow for, two-factor? Of course, that's very important. Are messages encrypted when backed up to the cloud? I mean, like, there's this huge breakdown, a lot of different things to look at it. So it's securemessagingapps.com, and it's just a big secure messaging apps comparison. That's what it's all about. And it does a breakdown of what what the various ratings mean, etc. So very handy. Now, while we're talking about security apps, and like I said, we're kind of doing an app special here on it during HackSec this week. And this is from Torrent Freak. Researchers issue security warning over Android VPN apps. And this is from January 25th, 2017. A research team has issued a warning over the lack of security in many VPN apps available from Google Play. A worrying 38% of the apps tested contained some kind of malware, while 67% featured at least one third-party tracking library. More than 8 out of 10 leaked IPv6 traffic. Ooh, holy shit. So I'll read a little bit. There was a time when the internet was a fairly straightforward place to navigate. Whatever. We don't need to hear that stuff. For some users, the idea of encrypting their traffic has become attractive from both a security and anti-censorship standpoint. On the one hand, people like the idea of private communications, and on the other, encryption can enable people to bypass website blocks wherever they may occur and for whatever reason. As a result, millions are now turning to premium VPN packages from reputable companies. Others, however, prefer to use the all-in-one options available on Google's Play Store. But according to a new study, that could be a risky strategy. A study by researchers at Ciro's Data 61, University of New South Wales, and UC Berkeley has found that hundreds of VPN apps available from Google Play presented significant security issues, including malware, spyware, adware, and data leaks. Very often, users look at the number of downloads combined with their star rating of apps to work out whether they're getting a good product. However, the researchers found that among the 283 apps tested, I can't believe there's 283 VPN apps out there. But whatever, even the highest ranked and most downloaded apps can carry nasty surprises. Quote, 37% of the analyzed VPN apps have more than 500,000 installs, and 25% of them receive at least a 4-star rating. Over 38% of them contain some malware presence, according to VirusTotal, end quote, to the researchers write. The 5 types of malware detected can be broken down as follows: adware, 43%, Trojan, 29%, malvertising, 17%, riskware, 6%, and spyware, 5%. The researchers ordered the most problematic apps by VirusTotal AV rank, which represents the number of antivirus tools that identified any malware activity. Now, the number one, I'm just going to break down this list and we'll break this down. Number 1 was OKVPN. Number 2 is EasyVPN. Number 3 was SuperVPN. Some of these I've never even really heard of. Number 4 was BetterNet. 5 was CrossVPN. I mean, these are like kind of no-name ones. And link is in the show notes, of course, where you can look at all of these yourselves and you can read the entire report. But yeah, this is really an issue. Now, what's causing this? Is it just like a bad implementation of a VPN, or is it, is there something nefarious here? Are they trying to collect data, say, to sell off to advertisers? I think either of those are very likely. Now, the one that I recommend first and foremost and always have is Private Internet Access. They are not an advertiser on the show, but they were not on this list. They are one of those companies really doing it right. AirVPN is also another excellent option if you want to go with that. And something I want you to do, though, and this is great because it works on mobile as well as on a desktop if you want to use it there. Not that desktop apps have been found to necessarily be leaking. Of course, they also weren't really tested. But if you stick with like Private Internet Access and some of those other ones, and we've listed off, in fact, in the show notes, there is a VPN comparison websites that you can check out to where they break down all the different features, etc. But this is very concerning. So a good thing to do is actually, there's a website. It's ipleak.net, just ipleak.net. There's a link in the show notes for it. And actually, a listener of Sovryn Tech mentioned it on their social media, I know, this week. And ipleak.net, what it'll do, when you go to that website, it will let you know what exactly is going on. And it gives a bunch of breakdown. It even breaks down like your Tor activity and whatever else. And it just lets you know, okay, where, what IP address is showing. It's just a great way to test your VPN. There's a bunch of different metrics there. Is WebRTC information, detected and leaking, what's going, because that WebRTC was a concern with VPNs. It does a lot of that. So this is just a great little solution for this problem. But first off, if you're using any of these VPN apps, fucking get rid of them instantly. And like I said, I recommend either Private Internet Access or AirVPN as the two ways to really go. I mean, there's some other good ones out there too. I did a review of VPN apps actually on none of which were a part of this finding of security leaks or, security exploits within VPNs. But I did a breakdown, and like I'd recommend, don't use disconnect, but that's all on Patreon. And of course you can go to patreon.com, or you can just go to sovryntech.com. They'll take you right to the Patreon page. And for at least $1 a month, and you can get access to hundreds of hours of bonus content, extra content, where we get into the nitty gritty of some of these things every single week. But anyway, so this is, pay attention to the apps that you're installing, the VPNs, even the selfie fucking apps, and the messaging platforms, because we have to constantly do refreshers on all of this. But again, a lot of the links that you might want to check out are in the show notes to what to do about what we were just talking about with all of these different apps. I'll be back with more.
The reviews are in, and Babylon 5's a winner. The New York Daily News says Babylon 5 could make Star Wars look like a walk in the park. The Chicago Sun-Times calls it a welcome addition to the sci-fi universe. Impressive, perfectly scaled for TV, raves the LA Times. And the Kansas City Star says Babylon 5 is one space station you're likely to want to visit frequently. See for yourself what everyone's talking about on Babylon 5.
Babylon 5 is available for download on your favorite torrent site. See it now to experience the greatest show in television history. Babylon 5.
Internet of Targets.
It is time for Internet of Targets, where we talk about all the bullshit IoT, the market category that I just want to see go the way of the dodo. Because it is just, you want to talk about security exploits, those apps have nothing on just how bad for your digital life IoT devices are. Every single goddamn one of them. If it's a smart device connects to something, here we go. Now, this week I learned about one that, has to do with while you're sleeping. And you've got to hear it to believe it. But honestly, the idea is not new. Let's check. Let's hear the audio.
Time now for our Snore Wars series. Now, we've heard about couples sleeping in separate rooms to avoid the snoring, and maybe we're guilty of it ourselves.
Maybe.
Yeah, a little bit.
The big question this morning, though, could technology help stop the snoring? Becky Worley is back with some helpful hints, tips, maybe?
I am a grown woman in fuzzy pajamas on national television. That is not the most embarrassing thing.
There's more to that story.
Cue the audio, guys. Listen. That is me snoring.
That's you.
Yes.
That is me.
That is
yes,
real.
and
that
she
is
recorded
real.
it herself. Just would like to point out.
Please, for the sake of those we love, let there be technology that can help.
Yes.
Snores, sawing logs, or the deep rumble.
Sometimes I'll be like, hey, you're snoring. It's really loud. A constant roar.
Solutions? First up, identify the problem.
For some couples, this is about denial. I don't snore. Well, guess what? There's an app for that.
This is a new app called Snore Lab. It runs all night, and using the phone's mic, it records the most severe snoring events, so you can play them back the next day.
The sad thing is, that's me snoring.
And I'm not alone. In fact, I'm just one of 90 million snoring Americans.
This is something we see with couples all day, every day.
So for the sake of the ones we love, my intrepid snoring compatriots and I are taking a look at the anti-snoring products on the market.
This is the Snore RX mouth guard.
Whoa, this thing is significant.
It didn't alleviate it completely, but it did lessen the volume of the snore.
I still had to nudge him a few times in the side to get him to stop snoring.
The company says you can widen the mouthpiece with the idea to increase the settings until your snoring is reduced or completely eliminated. Okay, some hope.
This is the slumber bump.
This prevents you from turning over onto your back.
But if you have to roll over at night, it wakes you up.
Which is almost just as annoying as the snoring.
But that's the idea. The company's site says this is meant to retrain you to sleep on your side, and that's a process they say can take 30 to 60 days.
Next up, my snoring solution. It's a chin strap.
It's very uncomfortable.
I feel like I'm in traction or something, like I've been in a car accident.
The visual on this product, a lot to take in.
That is not a sexy look.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's sexy.
I mean, it looks great on you. I'm just saying. Yeah. But, we do have some high-tech solutions here. You're such a good sport.
It's bringing me back to my headgear days when I embrace this. All right, go.
The high-tech solution is this Sleep Number 360 bed, and we're simulating this. We saw this at CES where they debuted it, but Michael, we're going to simulate you snore at night. So snore you. Okay, and the bed will automatically rise up, and you can see it doesn't affect your partner, but it adjusts the angle. The snoring stops.
That's pretty good.
That's good, right?
That is.
I mean,
that'll cost you.
And it's spendy, but some people are desperate.
What if you don't want to spend so much money then?
Low-tech solution. How do you like this?
Tennis balls in the back.
They can't sleep on their back. They can't snore. Genius.
All right. So, geez, Becky Worley's nuts. But anyway, yeah. So, let's get the elephant in the room, right out of the way here. The app that they talked out initially, Snore Lab, let's be real clear. That is an app that is just going to be constantly listening to you. The privacy concerns right out of the gate. I mean, that's the point, is that it's supposed to tell you when you're snoring. But it is. And in fact, there's even like a premium model for it. I mean, it's designed to do a lot more than just listen to you snore. But yeah, keep it clear in mind. This is why a lot of these phones, for the past 2-3 years, they started installing voice coprocessors. This isn't why they did it, but this kind of hints at what they're capable of. The reason voice coprocessors started getting put into smartphones was to allow for Siri and OK Google, to be activated at any given time without taking up a ton of resources of, pretty much the single die chip, right? Or, the system on chip. So your main ARM processor. Okay. So that's, a lot of people get to take advantage of that with things like this. Now, admittedly, this really isn't anything new. Like, this used to be very old arguments of, couples and whatever else saying, oh no, I don't snore. What are you talking about? I don't snore. And I mean, I even thought about it with past partners where it's like, look, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to record you at some point. Just like, I'm just going to set up a camera so you can see yourself snoring, right? Or, so you can hear yourself snoring because people just wouldn't believe it. Now you can do it with your smartphone. But again, I understand, and maybe it's an interesting thing to do with metrics, but all of the metrics that Snore Lab collects is, it's going to go, it goes up to Snore Lab, and then, is Snore Lab an American company? Yes. So who can access all that information? What's happening while you're sleeping? And that's the thing, is that Snore Lab is probably kind of always running, or at least has the capability. We're talking about crazy app permissions in the last segment. What's to stop it from listening at any given moment? I like the idea of, or I understand the idea of the quantified self wanting to learn about your habits and all this stuff. And that could be very interesting. I mean, especially if you're a single person, how would you ever know that you snore? Right. But, it's part of, working on snoring is part of trying to get, a really healthy sleep cycle. Right. So that's pretty important. Again, the problem comes down to is the Internet of Things. That's the thing. The things could be okay. Like the fact that your door or your lights could automatically come on or something, all of that's fine. The problem is, again, it's fucking connected to the big bad internet, and all of that data is going somewhere, and who knows what other types of controls are trickling down back to you. The other thing that was interesting in that was that bed. How exactly does that sleep number 360, how does that know to raise you up when you start snoring to try and keep you from snoring? It's because it's constantly listening to you. That sleep number 360, I guarantee, is not like your smartphone. That baby's plugged in at all times. It's a fucking microphone in your goddamn bedroom. How do you feel about that? I get it. It's cute. These things are so cute. But understand, keep in mind that, hey, this shit is listening by default. Keep that clear. I get where it could be fun, it could be useful, but this stuff's listening, and I bet that sleep number, that sleep 360 connects to the internet too. Woo, be back.
Baby, I got to tell you, when I want to keep an eye on things, all things going on in the cryptocurrency space, when I want to keep an eye on prices, when I want to know about the new tools, the new wallets, or what are the best ones to use, all of that stuff, or when I want to get social when it comes to cryptocurrency, I go to cryptocompare.com. Oh man. I mean, I love this website. I'm not kidding when I say I leave it open 24/7 on my big rig. I mean, it's ready for whenever a question comes up for me for Sovryn Tech about something in crypto or whatever. I'm always checking that out, and just to keep an eye on things, just to know what's going on. To keep fresh, keep that flavor going. I mean, and they list off everything. Bitcoin, all your altcoins. They got you covered. So I want you to check out cryptocompare.com, and I cannot thank them enough for being a sponsor of Sovryn Tech. All right, let's get back to the show.
The Climax.
Woo! It is time for the Climax, where I get to talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about. It doesn't have to be tech related. It could be anything. And this week, spoiler alerts, folks, I'm going to be talking about a movie, and it is a movie that I enjoyed the hell out of it. I caught it last weekend, and myself and lovely and hyper-intelligent Dr. Stephanie Murphy, we went and saw it, and we both enjoyed it, and that is XXX, The Return of Xander Cage. And I thought that this was just I'll just say it straight up, I thought it was great. I had a ton of fun watching this movie. I mean, no, it's not Grand Illusions. It's not Citizen Kane or anything like that. It's just a fun movie. It's over the top. It's kind of ridiculous. And there were so many points in watching this that I was grinning ear to ear. Now, of course, it's a sequel in the trilogy of now it's a trilogy of XXX movies, which, there's the original XXX from 2002, which I love that movie. Then there was XXX State of the Union, or I think when it was out in North America, it was called The Next Level. That came out in 2005. That's the one that had Ice Cube in it. Playing, was it Darius Stone instead of Vin Diesel as Xander Cage, which, I'll admit, like, State of the Union, yeah, not the best. Like, I like Ice Cube fine. I actually think he's a hell of an actor. I enjoy his movies generally, but definitely didn't live up to kind of the standard that was set with 2002's original XXX. The Return of Xander Cage, the movie that just came out this January, that lived up, in my opinion. That totally lived up. Right down to, like, the amount of sex, like, really, I almost felt, I'll tell you, I almost felt like I was watching, like, if there was an Agent Sovryn movie, that it would almost be like this. Like, I just thought it was so, like, there was a point, again, spoiler alerts, folks. Okay. So stop listening if you don't want it. There was orgies. Like, I mean, yeah, I know in the original XXX, like, there was that point where it was like, oh, bitches come, and all these women walking. But like this one, it was very implicit that, oh yeah, my girlfriends, they like a nice stiff one or something like that. And suddenly all these women walk in and XXX is there in his fur coat. And what do you think he's going to do? Woo! It was wild. So you had that. Then you had this, a character, that was, anyway, it's kind of like this, replacing sort of the Q style character, like from the James Bond movies. In the previous films, it was the guy. This one, it was, sort of a gal seemingly in her 20s or whatever. And she knew all about XXX. And she was like so overt with her sexuality. She's like constantly hitting on him nonstop. And she's kind of the nerdy type, which I think is sexy as hell. And I mean, it was just funny. Like, she's even like cracking a joke about safe words and everything. It's like, she's like, oh yeah, my safe words kumquat. Like, she just kind of say it out of nowhere. And it was just so nice to see this really open sexuality, in the movie. Like, I loved the hell out of it. And then there was the other character that was played by the character of Adele Wolfe, played by Ruby Rose. Sexy as hell. She was a lesbian, straight up, and she's hitting on women, no problem. Like, I mean, the cast overall was, honestly, it was so fucking diverse and legit. Like, it wasn't. This is an interesting thing with Vin Diesel movies that, frankly, has been true since Pitch Black, is that he gets such a wide-ranging representative cast, and there's almost no typecasting other than, I mean, the action schlock, okay, which I enjoy. It's fine. I appreciate the fact that it's schlock. But, like, I mean, he gets real people from, real stars that are a big deal all over the place. Tony Jaa was in this. I love Tony Jaa. Damn. I mean, talk about a legit dude. I mean, just looking at the cast listing alone, was absolutely phenomenal. Donnie Yen was in it, of course, just coming off of Rogue One. Obviously, he's a hot property right now, but he's as legit as it comes. I mean, kind of the villain in it is, again, spoiler alerts, the villain in it is the head of the CIA, and the head of the CIA is acting like some kind of, constitutional patriot. Like, that was a little weak. I mean, I'll give it that. Like sort of the villain in the thing is a little weak, but really, I think the purpose of this movie, and there's already, I noticed on Vin Diesel's Instagram feed that he's saying, it's like, all right, what do you want to see in the fourth one? And the movie's got, this is impressive. The movie has a cinema score, which is kind of a meta score based upon actual moviegoers, not like critics, like Rotten Tomatoes is, but it has a cinema score of like A-. I mean, it's through the roof. And I think it deserves it because it's fun. If you understand that you're just going to see a fun popcorn, mindless action schlock movie, it's fantastic. Not every movie has to be high drama. And it was so good for that. So what I think this movie was about, and I think there's going to be a fourth one, and I applaud it. Even though, boy, Vin Diesel's 49, he's almost 50 now. That's something. But hey, 50 is the new, I don't know, 30. That's maybe that's the claim going around. I know they say like 40 is the new 20. I've heard people say that one. But anyway, he looked fantastic in this movie, by the way, just tremendous shape. He is so good. Riddick, Fast and Furious, Triple X. I mean, this guy just goes on and on. But what I think this movie was about, because suddenly you find out that the Triple X program, which is the spy program, right, has tons of people in it, and that, Samuel L. Jackson has been hiring all these different people. And so I think this was trying to set up a franchise to where you could explore all of these different characters. And believe me, I am all for I'm all for more Donnie Yen. I'm totally on board with more Ruby Rose. If she wants to come back as Adele Wolfe and do her whole, lesbian sniper thing, right fucking on. by all means, I support this. Everybody involved was great. And, Ice Cube comes back and everything, and that was pretty cool. He just kind of comes out of nowhere. They even, I mean, the fidelity they played to the series as well was great. Like at the end, again, spoilers, folks, at the end, they get the car, the convertible, which originally wasn't a convertible, but they blew the hood off the top. Okay, in the first movie from 2002, they bring that back. The hood's still off of it, and even the headlights, which had missiles behind them that they fired at the end of the original Triple X movie, the headlights are still out of it. Like, they really paid attention kind of to the lore within it. And fidelity is my thing. Like, that's what I always want. I want it to be, in universe, really, really paying attention to all the details, the minutia, and just having that fidelity to the rest of the series. And they delivered on that in spades in this. It was a cool movie. Like, when he's doing this, there's a scene where Triple X is doing kind of the skateboard, and like he grinds off the side of a bus. I was, like I said, I was grinning ear to ear. I thought that was just so cool. I mean, it's ridiculous, it's cheesy, but it was so fun. It was so great to finally see that again. Just something that looks cool, that has that absolute cool factor. And this movie delivered on all of it. I mean, it really did. Just a lot of fun, for a film. So I really hope that there's a fourth one, or turn this into a whole series, and make these side movies. I remember James Bond was going to do that, to where, like, what was her name? The one that was in Swordfish, Halle Berry. Halle Berry's character in Die Another Day. She was supposed to be getting her own movies. and that never happened. I hope this happens with XXX. Anyway, I thought it was fantastic. Appreciate it for what it is, and you are in for an absolutely great time. And it sounds like it's doing all right money, which that's great too. I'm happy for that. I mean, not great money, but it's doing all right. As long as we can get that fourth one, baby, I'm there. Anyway, that's enough Sovryn Tech for this week. Go catch XXX. I got to catch the new Resident Evil movie this week, and I'll be reviewing it next week. I can't wait for that. One of my favorite series. It's been a hell of a January. Sign up for Patreon if you haven't too. Sovryntech.com. I'll see you on the other side.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com. That's SOVRYN tech.com. And connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.